Oh, is it recording? Okay. Zoom did an update and normally it'll say recording in progress. And for some reason it didn't do that. So I'm like, am I recording? Make sure I'm not doing anything weird. Hi, I'm Analisa 6. I also have a website called The Lady of Leisure, and I do these astrology forecasts for the sober curator of online lifestyle, sober living magazine, online magazine. And I am here to delineate the July 2024 astrology forecast. I'm going to be honest, the astrology for today, June 29th, is very tense and there's a lot of tension in the air. I brought my weekly astrology blog back, which is called the Moon Day Monday Forecast, and it is a written format that I hope to do into a video format as well. Um, Hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have a video version of that blog. But essentially what I had written for today, June 29th, was that if it's a good day to stay in, do so, because the air is very turbulent today. And I have not left my house outside of taking my dog out. And it doesn't even matter. I still feel tension. I want to get out of the house. I feel like I should go for a walk and blow off some steam. The moon's been in Aries since yesterday, and I feel it. And when the moon's in Aries, I feel like I need to be active. Otherwise, I get really just kind of irritable. It's a beautiful day outside. I have a good night planned. And so I'm just hoping that I can get through this video in a way where it's fun for all of us, because I jump right into these. I don't actually do any prep beforehand. I just look at it while I'm moving ahead and talk about it. So that's what I'm going to do. So July 1st, we're in Cancer season, which is the cardinal water sign of the zodiac. So Cancer rules the fourth house. The fourth house represents our connection to our home base, our family as in parents and people we grew up with, but also the family that we create in our lives. So that could be people you live with. It can also be your children, your significant other. Even though the fourth house doesn't necessarily rule relationships, it does rule the family dynamic within the home space. So if you have kids and you're married, and that family home structure is represented here in the sign of Cancer. Cardinal signs are all about initiating and activating energy, and Cancer, being in the water element, is about initiating the water element. So what does that mean? Water and spirituality is connected to our emotional realm, our heart space. It's also connected to the way that we channel ideas ethereally through things like meditation, any kind of spiritual work that we're doing. Pisces rules dreams, but Cancer has a connection to karmic ties through ancestral lineage. All the water signs are connected to each other. So there's some crossover kind of in some of the ways that they are expressing themselves. And even though Cancer doesn't rule dreams, it does rule this kind of somatic and ethereal spiritual connection that we have to ancestral lineage, family lines, and people we live with. And so sometimes through our dreams, those things come up and can bring us into that Cancer state. I have a lot of dreams with my family members in them. And, it's interesting because there's like a lot of fourth house elements there. And then there's also, more of that Piscean kind of thing happening. So those are things that are interesting that could be coming up during Cancer season for some people. Cancer season falls in the summer months. And, so the activation into Cancer season is the summer solstice. So summer is activated. That's the initiatory cardinal energy. And usually in the summer, a lot of people are seeking to be near bodies of water because it's hot. We want to be by the ocean. We want to go to a lake. We want, to be somewhere that's a little bit cooler than where we're at. So we also tend to gravitate towards family vacations or trips with people and wanting to be near bodies of water. So those are big themes in July, just in general. And that's kind of the reason why, I think, is because of that energy rulership. So starting out the month of July 2024, Sun in Cancer. Then we also have Mercury in Cancer for the first 2 days before it enters Leo. We're going to talk a lot about that. And then Venus is actually in Cancer right now as well. On the first, she starts out at 17 degrees of Cancer. So she'll be in the cardinal water sign for the first 2 weeks of July. And then Mars is in Taurus, and Mars will be in Taurus for the first half of July, a little bit over the first half. Jupiter is in Gemini, so we've already talked about that in the past. So if you are curious about that entry into Gemini, you can look at June's forecast. And even I think I talk about it more in May because it entered in May. So you can go back and look at that if you want. Today on June 29th, Saturn is stationing retrograde in Pisces. And so we actually have Saturn in retrograde at 19 degrees of Pisces starting out the month of July. And then Neptune is already in Pisces, but will be stationing retrograde on July 2nd. So we're going to have Neptune starting its retrograde and joining the retrograde in Pisces party with Saturn at 29 degrees, which is a critical degree point in astrology. And so that's starting on July 2nd. And Neptune's going to be retrograde, it looks like, until December 7th. So we have a long time of that. Pluto's already retrograde, and so Pluto is going to continue to be retrograde in the fixed sign of Aquarius. It's been retrograde since May, so we're not new there. But you know, we've got Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto now all in retrograde, and so that's just something to make note of. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start talking about this every day. So I go through every day of the week. I don't focus a lot on the moon transits because now I do that in the lunar forecast every week. And that's a written blog. Like I said, I would like to transfer it over to video, but until I do that, we're going to have it written. It's just a lot to do these videos. I like doing them, but you know, I've got to make sure a lot of things in my sphere are going well. Also, my dog is sick and he's been coughing a lot, and I was waiting for him to calm down before I recorded this. So you hear a coughing dog in the background, that's what that is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we have the chart up for this month. I'm trying to see if I can get, I know I usually can get my little, oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. Okay, there we go. I'm just trying to get myself in here with the chart. This is crazy. Okay, there we go. Hopefully this looks okay on your guys' end. All right, so this is the first day of July. Oh no, what is happening? This is so frustrating. Zoom changed, like did an update. Now things are a little bit different. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I apologize. Okay, so we have July 1st going into the day. The moon is going to be in Taurus. We don't have any specifically large transit happening. I think the day before on the 31st or the 30th, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's not really too much going on. Saturday, today, the 29th is kind of a bigger transit day. So starting out the first, moon in Taurus, moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. And on this, am I in the right thing on here? Why does it say moon in Aries? Oh, that doesn't say moon in Aries. That says Lilith. Okay, I'm losing my mind. It's been all day today. I'm like, where's the moon in this chart right now? There it is, moon in Taurus, 11 degrees. Okay, so moon is exalted in Taurus. That actually should be a really good energy starting out the month. The moon is very nurturing here, very grounded. It wants to connect to nature, spend time outside. It could be a really good day for connecting to comforting foods, cooking, anything that kind of gets you out of your head and kind of more into the physical reality is really positive for the moon in Taurus. On the 2nd, oh my God, this is going to cause me all kinds of issues trying to sift through this. Yeah, that's going to turn that. Wow. I'm really not a fan of how Zoom just did this to my life. I used to be able to keep this up here and click on this. That's really frustrating. Okay, well, I'm learning. This is one of those days. It's a frustrating day today. I'm having a hard time. Okay, so we're on the 2nd. So this is the day that Neptune stations retrograde at 29 degrees. This is actually a pretty large transit day. So we're going to have Neptune stationing retrograde at that critical degree point of 29 degrees. And it's a critical degree point because it's the last degree point of a sign. And so a sign is 0 through 29 degrees. And anytime we're at the turning point of a planet stationing from one sign into the next, and it's hitting these critical degree points, 29 and 0 degrees, there's a story that's kind of beginning or ending. And so with a 29 degree point, that's the last degree of a sign. There's, you know, a story ending essentially, but because Neptune is a outer moving planet and its orbit takes a long time, the story is lasting a lot longer at this critical degree point. The ending is taking a long time, and then it's stationing retrograde until December. Let's see, Neptune doesn't enter Aries for a minute. It's not till next year. So Neptune will enter Aries at the end of March, the last day of March on March 31st. So basically from now until March 31st, Neptune is telling a story that's at the end of Pisces. And Neptune has been in Pisces since, it's been a long ass time now. Neptune has been in Pisces since February of 2012. So if we think back to 2012, what was happening in our lives in 2012, and then we think to now, this whole up until now, March till March 31st, we're wrapping something up. And so, you know, Neptune spends about 14 years in a sign. And so we've been through a cycle, you know, for 14 years. There's also a Saturn cycle tied to that. And this story is coming to a completion. And so this last few months, the last 6 months, 5 months, well, no longer than that, until March. I guess we're kind of at that midpoint with this for the last kind of bit. Yeah, we're going to be telling, we're going to be ending a story, wrapping up a story. I'm sorry, I'm getting really like reflective on this in my own life, where I'm just like, wow, this is wild, because I have so much going on in this way that's very impactful. I knew that this was kind of going on, but I think when I am reminded that that's what's happening over the rest of, I get kind of caught up in my own story sometimes with these transits, where I'm just like, this is wild. So one of the things that you can do when I do the horoscope videos is you'll see where Pisces is in your chart in a horoscopic way. And then you can also look at it individually in your birth chart and see where this Neptune retrograde is happening. And that's going to show you where the story has been for 14 years, where you have Pisces. So wherever Pisces is in your chart or in your horoscope, that's where Neptune's been transiting and telling a story. And so we're wrapping that story up. Neptune's going to station retrograde. It's going to bring back some of the story into the ether in a reflective way. Retrogrades always mean that we're reflecting and reviewing. And then when they station direct, whatever we've kind of reconfigured or organized starts to move into forward motion again. So a couple things. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So Jupiter's the traditional ruler and Neptune's the modern ruler. Neptune is the planet that is called the dissolver. So whatever Neptune hits, it's dissolving, and it's basically any structures that were in place are being dissolved by Neptune. And when it's happening, it could be a very confusing time. We might not have all the answers to something that we want. We might not be able to see things clearly. Neptune and the sign of Pisces have an air of deception to them. So there can be either people deceiving you, or you can be the person deceiving if you're somebody that's prone to lying. I never knew how many people confidently lied until I entered the AA world. And then people are very honest about how much they lie in AA. And that's been really eye-opening for me. I don't feel comfortable lying. I have a really guilty conscience, and I am not somebody that likes to try to lie or get away with things. And so I don't think I realized that there were so many people that were on the other side of the spectrum where lying was just something that they were used to doing all the time. And that's a very Pisces Neptune frequency. So if you're somebody that is a liar, you know, if that's something that you have struggled with, or that's something that you embrace, those things might come up for you during this Neptune retrograde. If you're somebody that's easily duped or deceived, which is me, I'm a very benefit of the doubt person, which has definitely bit me in the ass multiple times. Then you might be learning some of those lessons, you know, during this retrograde. The other thing that this retrograde could bring up is issues around sobriety. So, you know, this forecast and blog and everything, like, I'm sober, I've been in recovery for a long time. And a lot of times when we have a transit like this retrograde in a sign like Pisces, we might be reflecting a lot on our recovery. If you are an addict and you're not sober, but you're considering sobriety, this could be another kind of rock bottom period because we have Saturn retrograde in Pisces as well. So having both Saturn and Neptune retrograde in this area in Pisces brings up our relationship to reality, our relationship to escapism, especially through substances. It also can be our relationship to the imagination, art, creativity, meditation, spiritual evolution. And so, AA specifically and a lot of recovery programs are spiritually focused, and there's a reason for that. I think that doing drugs and drinking and being an addict also is there's a search to fill something, right? We are either trying to numb ourselves, we're trying to, escape some kind of pain or reality that we don't want to experience. There's some kind of way that we're trying to alter reality. And one of the things that is toxic about drugs and alcohol is that we lose our ability to control or have clear mind. And so when we're not operating from a place of clear mind while we're seeking escapism, that's when things happen that are not necessarily good. We make bad choices that we don't necessarily remember. That's where that can be really harmful. That's usually what leads people to sobriety. I think that if we were able to do drugs and alcohol with clear mind and it didn't have negative consequences or impacts on us, a lot of people would not have a problem with it. But because when we are, doing those things, it brings us into this state of, almost like we're under, we say we're under the influence, of something outside of ourselves. The thing about spirituality that is what I like about spirituality is that spirituality, especially if you're doing things like Kundalini or transcendental meditations or dream work, there's all these different modalities of things that you can do where you're just opening up certain chakras and channels to energy frequencies. And you don't need drugs or alcohol to do it. You're of clear mind more. You're able to control yourself. You're able to decide when you do or don't want to do something. So those are kinds of things to, reflect on with the Neptune Saturn retrograde. Okay, I want to move on from that because we have a lot still to talk about. So the other thing that's happening on July 2nd that's pretty major is we have Mercury making a trine to that Neptune. Mercury's finishing up in Cancer, and so really elevating all of that frequency of energy I was just talking about in terms of our connection to spirit, our desire to escape reality, psychic channels. This is great for creativity and music, all that kind of stuff. But then right after it makes this trine, which happens in the early AM hours, it's going to enter the fixed sign of Leo. This is going to be the first strong Leo energy that we have of the month. And we're going to have more later on because the last part of July is when Leo season starts. But then we also have Venus entering Leo as well. Also, happy birthday to all the July Cancers. I can't remember if I said that at the beginning. Okay, so Mercury is going to enter Leo. And the fixed sign of Leo is the sign that represents our relationship to self-expression and how we like to share ourselves when it comes to play, performance, theater, how we put ourselves together in a very Venusian way. Leos are often associated with having a lot of hair and a really nice mane. We're associated with being very vain and materially driven. I think that I want to define Leo as somebody who is a Leo, who's been on the full spectrum of all of the negative qualities of Leo and all the positive qualities of Leo. I want to kind of define what the archetype of Leo is supposed to be. And yes, there's a lot of shadow qualities that are true about Leos that happen, a lot of Leos that are immature and unevolved, have these qualities. But I want to talk about kind of like what Leo is supposed to be in its most evolved state. And Mercury is our planet of communication. So if we take what Leo represents and kind of the way that it's supposed to be in its best expression, and we take the planet of communication and put it here, then you'll have a kind of understanding of what we're working through with Mercury and Leo. And this is going to be happening for the whole month of July, up until the 26th. And then Mercury is going to enter one of its home signs, Virgo. But later on in August, Mercury is going to station retrograde in Virgo and make its way back into Leo. So we're going to have a lot of Mercurial Leo energy up until September. So this is a big frequency of energy for the rest of the summer. So Leo is the fixed fire sign of the zodiac that rules the 5th house. And the 5th house in the chart is the house that represents our connection to creativity, self-expression, our connection to children, but also not just children outside of ourselves, also our inner child. It's where we find joy and pleasure. There's a connection to romance. There's also a connection to theatrical performance. And it's the sign that also is representative of sharing. Leo gets a rap for being self-centered because it likes to take center stage and it likes to perform and it likes to be on. But it's not like that because it's self-centered. It's like that because it wants to share and it wants to express the self. Aries is the sign that rules the self and the identity and the relationship to self, where we currently are having Chiron in the North Node. Aries is all about the self. Leo is about sharing the self. In Aries, we're not necessarily sharing the self, it's our own personal relationship to self. In Leo, it's about self-expression and connecting with other people and really wanting to show people who we are. So the detriment of Leo, the shadow quality of Leo, is that because Leo wants to share itself and wants to be seen in that way, Leo's big problem a lot of times is seeking validation outside of the self from other people in an insecure way. There's a lack of confidence. There's a kind of desperation to be loved, the desperation to be seen, a need for attention and validation from people. And, we think about the performer, the artist, there's a need to be seen for the performance, the art, applause. And yes, we enjoyed your performance. Leos really want that validation. And, I'm an artist. I have been a musician since I was a kid. My grandma did children's theater. I performed in some of her plays. I've toured. I've been in tons of bands. I love photo shoots. I love taking pictures. I love being photographed. I love putting myself together and putting it out into the world. I also love watching other people do it. I'm not a competitive person. I don't see somebody doing something and get jealous or weird about that, but that can be a quality of Leo. And when I was a child, when I was a little kid, I definitely had those tendencies. And I'm really grateful that I had a mom and a family that didn't allow for that. They were very much like, you're not going to be a jealous person. You're a great person on your own. You're going to learn how to love people and be inspired by people and not in competition with them. And so that was squashed out of me at a really young age, was, don't look at people as competition, look at them as inspiration and collaboration. And that's a very evolved Leo state to be. Scorpio has more of the relationship to jealousy, but Leo being a fixed sign and kind of in that need for admiration and attention seeking can fall into those tendencies as well. So the unevolved Leo can be more attention seeking, searching for love, validation outside of the self versus learning how to accept and love the self from within and then sharing it. And also, some of that competitive fire energy that can be destructive. Leos also have a tendency towards love bombing. That's something that I didn't even know was a thing. I was raised by a family where we definitely love bomb each other. We're very we pump each other up. We're obsessed with giving gifts. We're obsessed with being cheerleaders of each other. And I had no idea that that was also a manipulative thing that some bad people do. So I didn't know that there was that term. I didn't know that that was something that some people internalized that way. So that's something that as a Leo myself, that's very into compliments, affirming other people, validating other people, giving gifts, seeing that those transactions as symbols of appreciation for somebody. I've pulled a lot of that stuff back and made sure that I'm not overdoing things that might make other people uncomfortable in that way. That's been a big lesson for me. So those are some of the traits with Leo energy that can be problematic. Now, an evolved Leo. So when we get into the evolved Leo evolution, we have Leo that doesn't seek approval or validation from outside of the self. We have Leo that is in love with itself in a way that is healthy, not narcissistic, but in a way that's very, I love myself, I know myself, I'm good with myself, I'm good on my own, and I'm solid in who I am and I know who I am. And I love to share that with other people, but it's also boundary. There's good boundaries there. I don't need somebody else to fill my own cup. I don't need a bunch of praise and validation from other people to be okay in myself. Do I enjoy sharing myself artistically still? Yes. Will I continue to be creative? Yes. Will I continue to show how you can love yourself and express yourself confidently without any of these weird games, without love bombing, without manipulation, without, all these things? Yes. That's evolved Leo. Evolved Leo likes to spread the love and also respects boundaries and also has really good boundaries around that. Um, Evolved Leo knows that there's a gift in sharing creativity and art, and a gift in receiving people's constructive criticism while also admiration, and that you're also able to give that back. That's Evolved Leo. Evolved Leo also has a really positive relationship to their inner child. So knowing how to play, knowing how to not take themselves so seriously. You'll see some Leos that take themselves really seriously. I think I look like I take myself really seriously, especially online. I actually don't. It's really hard to embarrass me. I'm really good at laughing at myself. I'm actually really funny. So I think people are always kind of surprised by that because I post a lot of pictures where I look intimidating. I like that I look that way, but I'm actually a huge dork. So there's, kind of that like playful, youthful energy that Leo has. Leo has a lot of youthful, immature, childlike qualities. A lot of other Leo dominant people that I know are very childlike. You'll meet a lot of Leos that you're like, they have it really together in a lot of ways, but then there's this other immaturity side that you're kind of like, how are you still behaving so youthfully when you're this age? And that's very Leo. Leos don't want to grow up. That's a children connection to children thing. So Mercury in Leo being here for most of July, Mercury's our planet of communication. So what you're going to want to do is look at your chart and watch your horoscope videos for sun and rising and see where Mercury in Leo is in your chart, natally, and then in the horoscope. And this is where you're going to have this Mercury in Leo story happening, where you're going to be reflecting on all of these themes in this area of your life. So like if it's in your 10th house, it's your house of career. If it's in your 7th house, it's in your house of relationship. If it's in your first house, it is your identity. 4th house, home and family. Like how are you connecting to those themes in your home and family? So those are all things that, you're going to be working through, and it's self-expression. It's how we communicate. You might be reflecting. So let's kind of move past where the Mercury placement is. So we'll get through the rest of this. Venus on this day, on the 2nd, is also going to be making a trine to Saturn. So Venus in Cancer is going to trine Saturn in Pisces on the same day that Neptune stations retrograde and Mercury enters Leo. This is a really positive day for creativity. So let's talk about Venus. So Venus is going to be finishing up her time in Cancer, where she's been. And then before she enters Leo and joins the Leo party, she's going to be making these aspects to Neptune and Saturn. And Venus is the planet of relationships. So she represents our connection to romance, partnership. She also represents our connection to beauty and how we put ourselves together aesthetically. She also can be related to how we decorate our home. She's also related to self-worth, femininity, whether you're a woman, man, non-binary, doesn't matter, just those kinds of themes. And I think if I were to think of femininity in a non-binary way, the way that it makes me feel is Venusian. Like it's very like, I'm here to feel kind of this connection to Mother Earth in all the ways, and what's pleasing to my eye, that's soft to my eye. How do we connect with nature? How do we connect with food? How do we see ourselves as worthy of love, from ourselves and others? So Venus in Cancer, is very vulnerable, very emotional, connected to Saturn and Pisces. We're more expressing feelings, maybe connecting to ourselves in this more deep way. I think of the Ace of Cups with this energy. I did bring my tarot deck, one of my many tarot decks. so that I could, I mean, we've got the Queen of Cups too. It's a very Queen of Cups kind of energy. Venus, trine Saturn, even King of Cups, the Cups cards, you know, we have a lot of these themes, but the Ace of Cups, you know, I associate with Cancer, and, you know, Venus in Cancer is such an Ace of Cups energy. It's so just yummy and positive, and it just feels very nurturing. And with Saturn retrograde in Pisces, you know, we might feel very ungrounded emotionally. We might be more emotional, but it's also really positive. The Three of Cups too. Venus, you know, is tied to our friendships, our relationships. Three of Cups is positive. Two of Cups, I don't know, all the cups. Two of Cups is that relationship energy as well. So it's a positive time, I think, in that way. And then let's see here. We're going to go through, the moon enters Gemini on the 3rd. This is going to get rid of my video again. It's so frustrating. Let me get this here. Okay, on the 3rd, we have Mercury in Leo making an opposition to Pluto. So Pluto is in Aquarius at the early degrees of Aquarius and retrograde at 1 degree. And Pluto is the planet that represents our connection to deep karmic transformation, pain into power, reflecting on trauma, reflecting on karmic past life trauma that we might be working through. Mercury making this opposition to Pluto, we might get some really powerful, deep insights around a situation that maybe has been confusing, very Piscean to us. And maybe we're at a point where we're ready to let go and move on of some previous idea about ourselves or a situation. Pluto wants there to be a complete transformation around whatever it's touching, and Mercury's our communication. Pluto and Mercury transits too often have an investigative quality. There's a truth-seeking quality to them. So if we're searching for answers or we need some kind of, you know, news, or we're investigating something, there's that. In the Leo Aquarius polarity, we have that self-expression, creative energy mixed with the community in Aquarius and kind of more of these bigger ideals, concepts that are outside of the self that have more to do with the collective whole. So it's interesting. It's also interesting with the election year, but I don't do electional astrology, so I'm not going to talk about that. All right, then we are moving towards Thursday. And on Thursday, the moon enters Cancer. We don't have a lot going on transit-wise on that specific day, but on Friday, we have a new moon at 14 degrees of Cancer. And so new moons are a time of setting intentions. And this one's happening in the afternoon around 4 p.m. Pacific time. And the new moon in Cancer, you know, first you want to watch your horoscope and figure out where you have Cancer in your chart horoscopically, but then also in your natal chart. And wherever we have a new moon is a time to set intentions for something that we want to set in motion towards the next cycle or the next phase. I talked a lot about what Cancer represents at the beginning of this video. So it's our connection to our emotions, our family, our home life. Cardinal water is all about initiating. So, you know, this is a powerful time to kind of think about what you want to initiate in those areas of your life. The other major transits that we have going on this day are Mars in Taurus making a harmonious sextile to Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and Venus in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. So, you know, the Venus in Cancer squaring Chiron energy, wounds in relationships might come up during this time. The identity, being vulnerable, how do we communicate who we are in our relationship dynamics and what we're going through. That's happening in the evening hours. And that frequency we might be feeling for a couple days. It's pretty intense. There's definitely room here for some misunderstandings and conflict in relationship dynamics. Mercury, I'm sorry, not Mercury, Mars in Taurus making a harmonious sextile to Saturn in Pisces. This is actually a really positive time for art and creative projects. So it's good to kind of channel a lot of this energy into your creativity and your spiritual practice. All right, we're going to move on. This video is going to take me forever if I don't start moving faster. Saturday the 6th, we have the moon in Cancer, and then it enters Leo in the evening. We're still in that new moon frequency of energy, so we're going to be feeling a lot of intense energy. July 7th is a calmer day with just kind of that new moon hangover energy. And then the moon enters Leo the day before. So the moon is going to be in Leo all day for Sunday the 7th. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I get into that in the other blogs. On Monday the 8th, we have Venus making a harmonious sextile to Uranus and Taurus. However, Uranus is the change maker, it's the disruptor. And so, we think about our planet of relationship, making a aspect to the destruction planet, big changes in our relationship, sometimes for the better. It can also, there can be an element of surprise too. If you are with somebody and they are really good at surprising you with things that are romantic, that could be a really fun, positive way that this transit manifests. But, sextiles are harmonious. So, I want to say that because Venus is a benefic and the sextiles are harmonious transit, these are positive surprises. But, sometimes Uranus brings destruction and there's surprises that maybe the intentions were good, but it's not necessarily, what we were hoping for. Mercury in Leo makes a harmonious sextile to Jupiter and Gemini on this day as well. So there's two really harmonious transits happening. And I will say the thing I do like about Mercury, Leo, sextile, Jupiter, Gemini, and Venus, Cancer, sextile, Uranus, Taurus, that combination of things with the moon in Leo is that if we are trying to grow, evolve, and expand who we are, how we express ourselves, our level of self-awareness, how we communicate our feelings, that's really supported at the start of this week. If you're trying to level up in your relationship or grow and evolve, you're supported in that. So I actually am kind of excited for that energy in that sense. Growth also can be really challenging and difficult at times if we're resistant towards it. So I would say just whatever's opening up for you in that way, I would lean into it. Tuesday the 9th, the moon is going to enter Virgo. And then our next transit we have on the 10th is the sun in Cancer making a trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. This is a really great time to do work on yourself around things that need healing, especially spiritual themes or themes around family, that kind of stuff, identity wounds. Just in the sense we still have Chiron and Aries, and then we have this trine, like there's kind of this theme here where what deeper healing can we do on the self this week that might be empowering for us. Okay, so we're going to jump to Thursday because Thursday is a doozy. We have a lot of energy here. So this is the day that Venus is going to enter Leo. And before Venus enters Leo, she's going to make a trine to that 29-degree Neptune. So again, dissolve. Neptune dissolves whatever it's touching. This is a planet with relationships. There's some previous way a relationship dynamic has gone that is changing. The way Venus was aspected leading up to this was setting that stage for these more vulnerable emotional conversations to happen. Now that Venus is making this aspect to Neptune, things are dissolving, barriers are shifting, boundaries are changing, and Venus is going to be entering the fixed sign of Leo. So this is happening in the morning. So Venus will be in Leo for the rest of July, starting on the 11th. She'll enter Virgo at the beginning of August, but we have basically Mercury in Leo with Venus in Leo for this middle chunk of July. And Venus in Leo is really interesting. So last year we had Venus retrograde in Leo during, I think it was July through the beginning of September. Let's actually look back. Let's look back to one of the worst chapters of my life. Okay, so Venus stationed retrograde. Well, let's talk about when she entered Leo. So Venus entered Leo on June 5th of 2023. Then she stationed retrograde on July 23rd of 2023. And she was retrograde until September 4th of 2023. And then she went back direct through Leo, and she was in Leo direct until October 9th of 2023. So I don't know how many of you were paying attention to a lot of the celebrity gossip last year, but we started out 2022 with a huge celebrity scandal. Whether it was real or not, it was highly entertaining. Ariana Madix of Vanderpump Rules and Tom Sandoval of Vanderpump Rules had a huge fucking breakup that dominated the whole first half of 2022 when it came to celebrity scandal. The other thing that was really interesting about this year was that it was called the year of divorce in Hollywood. And a ton of couples were breaking up, separating, and getting divorced. Venus retrograde in Leo is a frequency that definitely challenges romance, self-expression, identity stuff in relationship dynamics. And Leo, I'm a Leo. Once we're done, we're done. So if you hurt a Leo and you are playing games or you're kind of, if you're threatening a Leo's sense of self-worth, Leo's going to choose the self before it. Leo's royal. It doesn't bow to anybody. So Leo's ego is too fragile to really allow itself to be humiliated in that way. It's going to be embarrassed, but it's going to walk off and be okay and do its own thing. And that's a generalization. I'm not saying there aren't Leos out there that don't experience those feelings. We all do. I do. But I'm just saying that like that's kind of the archetype of Leo. So it's interesting in celebrity culture, you might associate with a sign like Leo because it's very performative. It's out there. It's very attention seeking in that way. And so we had this Venus in Leo, this Venus retrograde in Leo, and all these celebrity like public display couples, Venus rules relationships, were breaking up or going through these really hard, difficult times. And then, we've kind of been moving through those frequencies, watching how some of these people have recovered and moved on from it. I myself ended up going through that. So now that we're entering Venus in Leo in July, Venus will not be stationing retrograde here. That's not happening again. But Venus is going to be in Leo again. And so when you're watching a planet come back to another area of the chart, you want to kind of think about, okay, where was I the last time this was happening? What were the themes? What was I learning from that? What did I go through? And what am I here to kind of work through and clean up now from that story, especially having a planet like Neptune at 29 degrees, helping us wrap up and clean up stories with this Venus aspect to Neptune right before it stations into Leo. So think back to that period that I mentioned, that June through September period of last year, and then everything that's happened since then and where you're at now. And Venus in Leo has a lot to do with learning how to love yourself and express yourself confidently, share yourself with other people, know the healthy version of sharing yourself with other people versus using people to fill a hole. Those are two completely different things. Codependency is using people to fill a hole. Loving people for who they are while also having love for yourself independently of those people is a healthier Venus and Leo expression. So you can ask yourself during this time, do I love myself independently of anybody? Do I feel good about myself? Do I feel confident? If the answer is no, then you have an opportunity to unpack that, work through that. If you're seeking that approval in unhealthy ways where afterwards you feel bad, those are also themes that you're working through. And Mercury in Leo's helping that out. And when Mercury stations retrograde in Leo in August with the sun in Leo, that story's there too. So these are big things to think about. Of course, wherever Venus is going in your chart in Leo with Mercury, that's going to be the area of your life that you're reflecting on. So that's a big deal. It's different for everybody. Okay, so let's look at the 12th. The 12th, we have Venus in Leo making an opposition to that Pluto in Aquarius. So, if we think about what I was talking about with the Mercury-Pluto opposition, we have Pluto, the pain into power, the death, the rebirth, the death and rebirth, the Phoenix energy. Pluto making this aspect to Venus again. What needs to die? What needs to transform? What needs to transmute? What last year started that you're still working through this year? And what's the story there? What are you figuring out? I want to share so much anecdotally about what I'm working through in my own divorce and my own self-love journey. But I feel like it's maybe too soon for me to do that. But I am really just the way astrology kind of weaves through our lives, and that is really fascinating. It's been really, I mean, I'm so grateful I've had astrology through all of this because it's been the grounding force for me watching all of this happen. The 13th, we have the moon in Libra. And then on Sunday, the 14th, the moon will enter Scorpio in the middle of the day. We don't have any major transits, just the continuation of that orb of influence of the stuff from the 11th and the 12th. And then starting out Monday, the 15th, we have Mercury in Leo making an inconjunct, so a hard aspect to Saturn in Pisces. We also have the sun in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. And then we have Mars making a conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. Ugh, I don't like the transits of this day. Mercury in Leo making a hard aspect to Saturn in Pisces. There's definitely potential for conflict in communication dynamics. We could take things personally. We could be competitive with our speech. You know, like when you, this is, I mean, I don't know. So, you know, like when you, and I'm like, assuming everybody's like me, that's the projection part. Mercury in Leo can definitely dominate and project. Not everybody thinks the way that you do. And so when we're in a conversation with somebody and we don't feel seen, a lot of times we can overly assert an idea or a thought because we really want that person to get it. Sometimes we're so caught up in that assertion, we're not even listening or paying attention to whether or not that person is actually getting it. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conversation where I get what somebody's saying, but they keep explaining it to me. I don't know how many times I can say, I got it, I get it, I'm good, let's go, let's move on. They just keep going, and they just want to keep going. They want to keep talking at me. I also have been guilty of that, where I just need to re-explain things or talk about things. I need to get it out somewhere. If this is happening to you, then, you know, booking a therapy session on this day, it might be good, especially having the sun squaring Chiron. There's identity wounds that come up during this time. So we're more susceptible to taking things personally, reacting, feeling competitive, feeling threatened. And then Mars in Taurus conjunct Uranus in Taurus. This is a huge accident energy. So you're prone to hurting yourself or making a mistake somewhere. Yeah, I'm not a fan. This is going to feel like a Monday. July 15th is going to be a Monday. It's frustrating for me because I'm going to be recording on this day. I'm going to be in Boston recording. Yay, lucky me. Hopefully whatever accidents happen are funny. Okay, so then July 16th, the moon's going to be transiting through Scorpio, and then it's going to enter Sagittarius in the evening hours. And then Wednesday is just the moon in Sagittarius. So we're kind of recovering, you know, maybe Monday, we're just like, oh, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of the mundane. And we get to have that kind of release on Wednesday. So there is reprieve after the storm. Thursday, we're going to have the sun making a harmonious aspect to Uranus and Taurus. So that's a little bit better. You know, maybe we feel a little bit more like whatever we can't control, we're surrendering to. We're just like, I can't control. There's surprises, there's changes in the plan and the schedule. This is one of those days to just go with the flow and try not to assert anything. Mercury in Leo is going to make a trine to Chiron in Aries. So there are wounds being hit and around identity and self-expression and things that you do have to work through. Why did I choose this week to go to Boston and record? Because intuitively I knew I needed this lesson. This is going to happen. That's just how it works. Okay, Friday the 19th, the moon is going to enter Capricorn. Saturday the 20th, we're going to have Mars making a harmonious sextile to Neptune. And then Mars is going to enter Gemini later on in the day. So Mars in Gemini ramps up a lot of anxiety. We think about the 9 of Swords, the 8 of Swords cards in the tarot, where we are more prone to overthinking things and obsessing over things. It's not an easy energy. However, our ability to analyze, pull things apart, see big picture, you know, kind of deduce things, try to figure things out is enhanced. You'll want to see where you have this transit passing because this is going to show kind of where your anxiety is going to be elevated. I'm trying to think where Gemini. Okay. Let's move to the 21st. Oh, Mars is going to be in Gemini too. Let's see how long that lasts. Wow, that's going to be for the rest of the month, as well as the rest, all of August. And then we're going to have it enter Cancer at the beginning of September. Man, things are getting rough starting July 15th. Okay, starting July 15th, we're starting to move into some turbulent waters. Okay, so if we want to go to the 21st, we have basically mostly transits with the moon in Capricorn, and then the moon's going to enter Aquarius in the early morning hours. And then we have Venus and Leo making a harmonious sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. We have Mercury in Leo making a hard aspect, a square to Uranus and Taurus. And then we have we have the Sun in Cancer making a trine to Neptune and Pisces, and Mars in Gemini making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So Sunday the 21st is a really intense day with those transits. And not only that, we also have a full moon at 29 degrees Capricorn. So what was I saying earlier when we were talking about Neptune at 29 degrees? This is wrapping up a story. What can you think about that's happened? I believe this is our second moon too in Capricorn, because we had a full moon in Capricorn. When was our other full moon? It was at the beginning of June. It was at 1 degree of Capricorn. And so now we have this 29 degree full moon at the end of the month of, I'm sorry, not the end, but almost the end of July. Let's see, why can't I find this? July 1st. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. June. 22nd, we had, yeah, so June 20, no, that didn't happen on the 22nd. That's the universal. That one happened on the 21st. So on the 21st, we had a full moon in Capricorn in June. Yeah. And then it was at 1 degree. So now a month later, we're having another full moon in Capricorn at 29 degrees. So full moons are a great time for either letting go or manifesting things. The one that we had at 1 degree of Capricorn is a really good one for manifestation, but because this one's at 29 degrees, and it's wrapping up a story, this would actually be a really good one for letting things go. If you think about all this energy that we've had leading up to now that has to do with dissolving old relationships, old structures, reflecting on an old story that we had last year, and everything changing, the way we express ourselves, the way that we love ourselves, the way that we share that love with other people, ego identity, self-expression identity, relationship identities, our connection to spirituality and art and creativity. All of those themes are here to shift and change and evolve. And so this full moon is here to kind of say, okay, here's the time to cut out what isn't working. Here's the time to cut out the shit. So we're very supported in that, especially with the Venus sextile to Jupiter, the Mercury square to Uranus, the Sun trine to Neptune, and the Mars trine to Pluto. Things are changing whether we want them to or not. So yeah, some kind of energy cleansing, clean out ritual is a positive thing to do. All right, on July 22nd, we officially enter Leo season. Happy birthday, Leos. It's our time to shine. It's my favorite season, but I'm actually kind of scared of this Leo season. Last year's Leo season was pretty awful, the Venus retrograde in Leo. And this year we have just kind of, it's a wrapping up of a story. You know, Mercury is going to be retrograde here. You know, we've got Venus here kind of bringing some of the story back. So I'm obviously projecting my own turmoil. It might be better for you if you had a more mild kind of thing, but it's hard. We're working through some intense stuff during Leo season. The Sun is going to make an opposition to Pluto on this day. So again, Sun represents identity, expression of self. Pluto, pain into power, death planet, transformation, rebirth, the Phoenix. A self is dying. The full moon was the day before. We're ready to reemerge and rebirth a new self, but the death needs to happen first, and that's happening. Tuesday, the moon is going to enter Pisces. And then on the 24th, we're going to have the moon in Pisces all day, which is a great, well, I'm projecting too. I really love moon in Pisces because I have a Pisces moon. And then we're going to have the 25th on Thursday, the moon's going to enter Aries in the morning. And then we're going to have Mercury and Leo making a hard aspect to Neptune and Pisces. And then Mercury is going to enter Virgo later in the afternoon. And then the Sun in Leo is going to make a harmonious sextile to Mars and Gemini. So this is an interesting day because this day is going to be really dependent on how we want to spin it. If you want to be productive, but have a level of letting things kind of flow, it's like, let's get things done, but not in a hard, controlled way. Let's just kind of chip away and let the cookie crumble the way it's going to crumble while still being productive. That's very supported. There's also an air of anxiety and a need to try to control things. Leo's really like, all the fire signs really like to try to control. Earth and fire sign. I mean, I would say every element has a sign that likes to control things. Aries and Leo like to control things. Sagittarius, maybe not as much, but they do. Virgo, Mercury is going to be entering. Virgo likes to control things, I think, more than Leo does. And we have a lot of that energy. So we might kind of be in this state on the 25th where we would like to control a lot of the way the day goes and the outcomes. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen that way. So this might be something where you're learning how to roll with it and, figure out where you can be productive while also kind of being, go with the flow. So on the 26th, Friday, there's a note in my Llewellyn that this is the day that we enter the Mercury retrograde shadow period. We also have Chiron stationing retrograde in Aries, and I think that's happening. Let's see what degree. This is on the 26th. It says on here. Where are you, Chiron? 23 degrees. So we're going to have Chiron stationing retrograde at 23 degrees of Aries. So that's important. Look and see where that's happening in your chart. And then we have Venus and Leo making a hard aspect and in conjunct to Saturn and Pisces, Mercury and Virgo in conjunct Pluto and Aquarius. And then the moon's going to make a conjunction to that Chiron retrograde. So there's definitely a lot that we're working through and processing around ego, relationships, communication styles. We're being asked to change a lot about how we approach things and grow, maybe become more mutable in certain areas, but also maybe we need to be more confident in others. I do a lot of tarot readings for people where they need to learn how to be more assertive and more confident with somebody else that's needing to learn how to be more mutable. So it really just depends on you as an individual, what side of that you're learning and integrating. Because for some people, if you lack confidence, you're a people pleaser and you're always self-sacrificing, advocating for yourself can be really hard, right? If you're the opposite, where you're constantly advocating for yourself and you're blowing over everybody and not allowing other people to have space in the dynamic, and maybe you're learning how to do that. Maybe there's a little bit of both that you're learning. I think I'm a both person. I think that I've been both people at different times in my life. And I think that sometimes I can push too heavy in one direction and then have to reel it back in to balance it out. And that's the thing that's hard, is that balance. If you've spent a lot of your time being super mutable and self-sacrificing, you may have pulled way over to this side. Now you're very reactive and always trying to advocate for yourself, and maybe you need to cool it on that. And maybe you don't need to be as reactive or advocating for yourself as much as you have in the past. So those are things to think about. And also, knowing your audience, knowing, does this person, that's like, maybe I'm triggered, but maybe I'm taking it out on somebody that doesn't necessarily deserve that. The moon's going to enter Taurus on the 27th. And looks like we have a last quarter moon in Taurus. So letting go of it, figuring out where we need to control things versus where we need to let go of needing to control things is a big theme. The 28th, we're just going to have the moon in Taurus. And then the 29th, the moon is going to enter Gemini. And the 30th, we have Venus making a trine to Chiron in Aries. So this is a really positive opportunity for healing identity stuff and ego stuff in relationship dynamics. So a really positive day for healing over the next couple of days, healing relationship dynamics. Also, if this is about self-love and needing to learn how to fill your own cup, The 30th is igniting that. It's a really good day to kind of be working through some of that. And then the 31st, we have just some moon transits. The moon's going to be in Gemini, so we're going to have a heightened feeling of anxiety, potentially overthinking things. And then the moon will enter Cancer in the evening. And that is the beautiful, challenging month that is July. I would say July is a little bit smoother the first 2 weeks. And then once we get to that 15th mark, things start to get a little bit more hectic. A lot of the chaos is going to be internal. So be mindful of your projections. You know, I think that there's so much about what we project onto other people that dictates a lot of how our reality is showing up for us. And so I think that when we're realizing like, oh, that's not really happening to me, that's kind of an energy I'm bringing into this situation with someone, we're able to transmute and shift that energy more easily. So those are things I think we're going to be working through a lot in the month of July, all of us collectively. A lot of relationship themes around, you know, how do we love the self? How do we share the self? How do we advocate for the self while also allowing other people to do that with us too? All right, you guys, I'm spent. That was a lot. I'm going to leave us with that, and I will start doing the horoscopes and uploading those throughout the weekend. And I wish you all the best of luck for July. I offer one-on-one tarot astrology sessions and classes. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can email me. I'll have my email in the description box, and you can book either a reading with me, astrology, tarot, both, or a class with me. I do one-on-one mentorship if you want to learn astrology basics or learn how to read tarot cards. I do a mentorship. Okay, well, you guys can find me at ladyofleisure.com, theservercurator.com. If you liked this video, please hit the like, subscribe button so you get notified on when I do these. And I will talk to you guys next month.